we are. How's it going? Happy Thursday. Once again, it is Nate Mumford here, broadcasting live in quarantine still, although I am vaccinated and I have gone outside the house, which is very, very exciting. The bar is very low these days in the Mumford household. How's it going? Hope you're happy, healthy, and safe and all of that good stuff. Today, we're going to talk everything about holiday scheduling, right? Because at least here in the States, summer is a lot of 3-day weekends with here Memorial Day, July 4th, and Labor Day. And so we know that comes with some, programming headaches, right? You have to kind of deviate from the norm. And again, the whole purpose of these RCS lives is to make sure that you don't have to worry about the small stuff, right? We want to help you out. That's the idea. So today we're kind of incorporate some GSelector and Zetta workflows, talking about how to make your life easier for those holiday weekends. As always, got to get some housekeeping out of the way. Don't forget to check your backups. We're still looking for beta users for Zetta 521.1. A bunch of you watched these videos and reached out. We absolutely love it. Keep it coming. Also, here's brand new business for you. Do you want to work for RCS? We're actually hiring right now for a field technician services installer. This is a travel job to go all across the U.S. and install all of our great RCS products. If you're interested, I do know that the new job is posted on both the iHeartMedia portal and also our RCS portal as well. You can check that out. It's the Field Technician Services Installer. Got any questions, let me know. That's on our website right now for you to check out. Come hang out with us and work for us. It's phenomenal. I can tell you that I love it personally. So let's dive right into it and talk about some of the holiday practices. As always, just so you know, you can always check out previous instances of our RCS Lives video on the RCS Live videos on our RCS archive. That's in there as well. I also have my chat open as well. Right, Meg? Yes, the chat is open as well. So we are, of course, on all those mediums, right? I think it's Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, all that good stuff. We're on there as well. So, and yeah, let's go dive right into it here. I'm just queuing up my little thing here. And so the first thing we want to kind of outline here is talking about, I don't know why my phone is being odd today. There we go. So the first thing we want to talk about is some holiday programming, right? What does that mean exactly, right? We're deviating from the norm. That's the idea here. So if I go to my clocks section over in GSelector, you might notice, ooh, this is nice and fancy. This is this nice 490 layout where we have incorporate the idea of granularity clock scheduling to the minute, to the 15 minutes, 30 minutes, to the entire hour, or up to 24 hours a day. And you might notice that since Monday's the holiday, I have a little kind of Nate's Holiday Show here in a Scott-themed weekend. In fact, this entire grid is a Scott-themed weekend because we're doing some, you guessed it, Scott-themed weekend, right? So what is a theme weekend? Jump back over here to a library. I'm just going to grab one of these songs, generically speaking. And remember, these are attributes that are station-specific. Themes are station-specific. Anything on the left-hand side is global. On the right-hand side is going to be station-specific. It just so happens for this one particular station, I have my theme is global. And so you can see here, this is my theme, and I have a Scott's Core weekend here. Just to review, if you wanted to add a theme weekend, all you do is simply go to your attributes, hit the plus, hit the theme, and you can call this, new theme weekend or something like that, right? With spelled not the weekend, but the real word weekend. And so I can do that. And if you don't see it here on the left-hand side, it means yours is station specific. So that's here on the right-hand side attribute. You can tell because I don't have essentially the theme here on the station specific level. It's at the global level, right? So what we're going to do essentially is find ways to create unique programming. That's the idea, right? Find unique ways that we're going to have another kind of content source. A lot of PDs like to go and essentially schedule these holiday weekends because they know that usually their audience is either traveling or outside doing something different. And the idea is that you bring another complexity level of programming to keep your listeners occupied, right? Or I guess, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not interactive, but interacting. So one of the great things I use for isolating any elements inside of GSelector is the browse list, found right over here. So library, browse, it's a little blue piece of paper with a pencil. It's the browse list. The way that I utilize the browse list is essentially a drag and drop from this window here to this window here. A very simple drag and drop. I can also use Windows shortcuts. So I can left click and then shift click to highlight multiple songs. Or I can click here and do control click to find additional songs over here, right? And this entire browse does have its own browse format. Just so you know, you can see here the browse list. And so if there's any type of metadata you want to include here, you can. So for example, you can see here, I have total plays as part of this column here. Now, once it's in this browse list, there's a couple things you can do, right? So let's just say for right now, we've isolated all of our elements. And don't forget to work smarter, not harder. Look over here on the left-hand side for your filters. If you don't want to include the hold category, maybe you block that, right? Because you don't want to have any non-important categories in here. However, I will say most program directors will tell you, usually on these holiday-themed weekends, that's when you break out the hold category because you want to keep it around for times just like this. So I have here on my right-hand side, I have essentially a browse list. Again, two ways to look at this browse list right now. Number one, a way to isolate files so we can go and access them, for example, the multi-song changer. So I can save this and call it RCS Live, what is it, 5/20/21, right? And that's a browse list that's there. Now, what I could do is go here to the filter, right? Go to my, where's your RCS Live 5/20/21, and you can see there's the same 10 songs. And once I have those 10 songs, then I can go to the multi-song changer, right? Behaves the same exact way. I can go to my song attributes, hit a plus, hit an edit, go to my theme, and there's my Scott's Core Weekend. I can drag all those songs over and, of course, save that as a Scott's Core Weekend. I'm going to cancel my changes for time purposes. But you can see how by isolating these elements with the browse list, it was easy. It was just drag them over. That's all we had to do. And of course, you ever need to reset it, just go back to no filter here, and we're back to the traditional layout. That's not a permanent setting. And by the way, that delete there is not going to delete the songs. It's going to delete the browse list we created, which was the RCS Live 5/20/21. All right, so that's the first way, right? So I'm not going to go and talk about music philosophies and how you want to design your themed weekend. That's going to be on you, Mark, to figure out. But if you have any questions, as I said, I have the chat going on here, and I can absolutely answer any kind of workflow questions you want to answer. For example, Victoria reached out on Facebook during our teaser the other day and want to know a little bit about platooning, goals, categories. There's a whole platooning section here. What is a platoon? The idea is that we have essentially the most rested from a hold category gets turned into the primary category defined on either account percentage or account, your choice. Platooning, again, is the idea that I'm taking the most played elements, resting them, swapping them out with a category that is a most rested category. And then I define inside of GSelector how often I want to run that, again, weekly or monthly, what day of the month or what week of the, or day of the week. And then what count, right? What percentage, what count? Percentage is like, again, 25%, right? So if I do 25% right here, Victoria, what I'm saying is for the category A, because I'm platooning A with those 3 dots right here, I'm saying take the most rested songs in the ZF hold category. And then once a week on Monday, take 25% of the most rested songs from ZF and replace them with the most spun songs from the category A. And that is platooning, right? So if you got questions and workflows, throw them out there. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. That, again, coming from Victoria over on Facebook page during our teasers. I jokingly told you I do pay attention to those teasers. So that's the first one, right? The first way of doing it is essentially isolating elements, going to the multi-song changer, adding an attribute, and of course, you can save your work. The second thing you can do working in this browse list, this is a shout out to Aaron, our new GSelector sales manager. We were talking about some browse lists and how you can do, let's say, A to Z weekends, right? So right now, I kind of have a couple generic songs. These are songs that I, of course, want to play for my themed weekend, but they can be whatever context you want. So I obviously, you can see here, I got some elements. Now I can always move this up. I can move like Love Lies all the way down to the bottom if I wanted to. I can create a browse list. So this plays in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can also right click and do a shuffle and just shuffle everything. I know the alternative formats, they do kind of the out of order, right? They just grab your 10 songs here, right click, shuffle, save, and then boom, you're going to play those songs in shuffled order as defined by you. That red line here, that is the bookmark. That is telling me where GSelector is going to start this entire sequence of events. See, I have options here to what am I going to do with the list? Am I going to stop or repeat? Am I going to go forward or backward? If I'm doing a bookmark, count up or count down. Right now, that's the bookmark. So I would start here and I'm moving forward. So I would go to 9, 10, all the way to 8. And based on the playlist here of stop, I would stop after Black Car for those 10 songs. Now, up to you. But what you can also do is sort by title A to Z. See that? Double click on this. So there's my bookmark. And when I save this, I'm now going to save this in an A to Z order. So if I go to my browse list, I'll save this right here. Again, notice the position will reorganize all those numbers, right? We do want to make sure those positions make sense. And again, save your bookmarks and stuff like that. Especially for scheduling purposes, I would definitely recommend if you're playing with this and playing within this window, get it to where you want it to be like this, right? Then just close the browse list, reopen it back up, and make sure it looks in order the way you want it to schedule, right? Just to make sure that's there. Because sometimes you might click something, move back, forget to save it or whatever it is. And there is some formatting here because if I just click A to Z or Z to A, I'm not necessarily saving the schedule here. I'm just filtering them from A to Z. So you might find yourself, make sure it's exactly the order of which you want it to be, save it, and then close it. You can see here, I'm not going to save my changes. So once we have that browse list defined, we can then go to our clocks, right? And we can go to our clocks and then go to our definition. And you can see here, I have a Scott themed weekend. All it is I have a theme song with Scott's core weekend. Very simple, very traditional approach. If I wanted to, I can also, let's say, do something like this. I can go to the browse list. I always do this here. Where is it? It's down below. And then I can go here and I can say, find the RCS live. Now, remember, I always tell you, work smarter, not harder. Control C to copy, V to paste, and come on here. And you can see, I double clicked on it. I'm going to hit no there. Yeah. I double clicked on the browse list. So what you can do there essentially is work harder, not smarter. Reverse that. There you go, Nate. Thank you. So again, go back in here, get that browse list. What I was trying to show you is we do have some cut and copy functions. So you can copy this and then, of course, paste it up here as well. And once you paste it, just paste your 10 songs like that, right? That's what I was trying to show you. So essentially, instead of just clicking and clicking and clicking, do it once, copy it, paste it. Once you have that down, you can save it and you're good to go. Now, remember, because we have the bookmark, we're playing in order, we're playing this RCS Live 5/20/21 almost like we would in an A to Z weekend, right? That's what's happening here. We're doing an A to Z weekend right here with this browse list. That's the idea. Now, I'm not going to save my changes. I'm going to keep it to my traditional Scott Core weekend here. I'm going to go to my assignment tab for right now. And you can see this is my default, right? How do I know it's my default? Well, if I go to my schedule here, there's my default grid. There are my dates, right? What I can do here is grab, what is it, the 31st. I can change this from default. I can put it into my Scott themed weekend. And boom, just like that. Don't be alarmed by this. All it's doing is just grouping it, showing you that from this date to this date, we use the default grid. No harm there. And then I have here essentially a Scott themed weekend, right? I'm saying for this one clock, use the Scott themed weekend. Again, don't be alarmed there. We're just collapsing it for visual purposes. And at that point in time, what I'm saying is based on the clocks assigned to a grid and definition, for that one particular day, utilize this grid. But now you might notice, wait a second, I have, Scott's Themes weekend. That's great. That's fine. They're different clocks. But look at the 6 a.m. hour here, right? I incorporated some of the workflows of GSelector 490 and unique clock structure. What I did is I created a Nate's Holiday Show by itself. Now we're going to start to slightly pivot to the Zetta environment here. Remember, GSelector is the brain, Zetta is the brawn. So we set it up in GSelector, we execute it over in Zetta. Voice tracking, play out, that's a Zetta functionality. Figuring out what you want to play, that's a GSelector function. So what I did here is I went back to my clocks and definition, and I created a specialty clock called Nate's Holiday Show. And this is a control event. So all I did here was go to all of my elements. There's a control section here. You can see there's a Zetta show right here as well. And all I did there was, this is my description as a Zetta show, right? And I have here in the info column, I have an option of what show am I telling GSelector to schedule in that position, right? That's the idea here. What am I scheduling in this position? And then from there, I took it a step further under the clock's assignment grid. And I said, hey, for this one particular section, play my show first and then play the rest of the additional music afterwards. Now, obviously, this is some math, right? If I create a 60-minute show, there's no need to have a Scott theme weekend below it. At the same connotation, if I have a Zetta soft sync in place, if I schedule 7 hours of music in the 6 a.m. hour at 6:59:59, we're going to blow up that music anyway, right? I wanted to show you the concept of when you're working within granular clocks here in GSelector, you have some flexibility, right? If you have that 30-minute holiday show or that 30-minute, top 20 countdown or whatever it is, you can start working a little smarter in your clocks because you have more flexibility now and how you execute some of those clock structures, right? So I'm going to jump to my Zetta over here. I have my 5:24 and my 6 a.m. queued up, and you can see here, there's my Nate's show as queued up. Now, the reason why I put two of these clocks back to back is because I didn't want to overthink the Scott's theme weekend. I also, as an administrator, I didn't know what the user who's building out that Zetta show, I don't know exactly what they timed it out to be, right? I could tell them do 60 minutes of content, but if you're a college or university, you and I both know you can tell your students make 60 minutes worth of music, and all of a sudden you got a 24-minute MP3 that you're working with, right? So the idea here is that I just want to make sure to cover me that I have enough music in this hour, depending on how long this Nate's Holiday Show is going to be queued up for. And I can do that with, just essentially saying, take the existing clocks we have and schedule it, and you're good to go. Again, inside of Zetta, we're going to blow this out anyway. See that? That's my remaining part of the hour, but I got a soft sync in there. So we're going to go ahead and skip all those elements based on the soft sync of that particular hour, right? So positioning now to the Zetta side of working smarter, not harder for your holiday weekends. The idea here is that you essentially can schedule as far into the future as you want, right? Some users are used to the next gen of the 14 days or the traditional GSelector. I schedule 7 days at a time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to schedule into the future, you can do that. And you don't even have to do it in chronological order, depending on what you have as a holiday, right? Think about it. If I'm a classic rock station and I'm playing an A to Z weekend on Memorial Day, do I need to necessarily have the 30th scheduled in advance to play the 31st? Maybe, maybe not. But if I schedule the A to Z weekend, because that's my primary content, right? That's the idea here, is that I want to play this. Let me ask you a question. If the very first song in the A to Z weekend has a conflict with the previous song from Sunday at 11:59 p.m., are you going to switch your A to Z weekend because of Sunday's schedule? The answer should be no, because that's your primary content. And that's why we can go ahead and schedule the 31st right now without having the 24th through the 25th through the 30th scheduled. We can go ahead and just schedule the 31st, and then we can have our A to Z weekend, and then we can have our part-time on-air talent voice track that entire day part and save it, and we don't have to worry about it because that's the primary content of our week. It's going to be that A to Z weekend on that Monday, right? So you can see there are ways of working smarter, not harder throughout this entire process, but also making sure that some of your staff can go and get ahead on their work so they can enjoy their 3-day weekend. So let's pretend we're on the talent perspective and we're building a show. Don't forget, in Zetta, we have the shows and the mini logs here. The only difference between shows and mini logs are that mini logs can have time-stamped materials. So, for example, your sporting events, we use mini logs because we need to define an exact time marker for your traffic to fill in for those sporting events. But you can easily use mini logs without timestamps or just shows, right? Which can include timestamps. Any questions, by the way? If you got questions, feel free to comment down here. I can see them on the little side monitor here. Questions, let me know. And so what you can do here is I can start going, all right, here's my Nate's show, right? And I can start curating this show if I wanted to. So I can take all of this, boom, there's my elements. I can go ahead and grab some songs. I'm going to play you. I'm going to play you. And then what I can do at that point in time is you can see here, I still have my segue editor and my voice track. So I can always go in here and I can edit my segues just like this. Now, usually you'll have this pre-formatted, right? So the idea here is I make it like this big. If I have it that big and I close it, next time you open Windows, it's going to be that big, right? That's the concept here. So there's this little voice track again, traditional voice tracking here. I wrote the fader a little bit. Cool, cool, cool. That transition is saved. Boom. There's my entire show. Everything is in here. All my voice tracks, all of my transitions, they're all in here. And again, based on my GSelector clocks, how do I reference shows over in GSelector? You go to the control events. The description is Zetta show, and the info is going to be right here. That info, Nate1234, you can see if I go back to my shows and double click, it is my external ID. That's what I have there, my external ID, right? So that's where you specify the show. So what you can do in GSelector as a program director, you can schedule out all of your holiday shows in advance. And then at the talent's perspective, you can then at your leisure populate those shows accordingly to land over in Zetta. Obviously, double check your work, right, Mark? Because you want to make sure that everything lands correctly and you just want to kind of set and forget it. Just make sure to do a quick little visual review and things look good, right? And you'll know that, by the way, too, because you can see here, like, for example, this is skipped because it's grayed out. This is playing because it's nice and visible, right? That's the idea there as well. Again, with Zetta's no limits design, what you can do here, you can schedule as far into the future or reconcile as far in the past as you want, right? So what I can do right now is I can start planning on my A to Z weekend if I want to do July 4th, right? If I'm a program director, what I can do is go over in my GSelector. I can start curating my A to Z weekend if I wanted to in my library or my theme weekend. I can save it, get it ready to go. I can go to my actual clocks here in my assignment, grids, schedule, dates. I can override that in the future, ready to go. I can queue up those shows. If I'm a talent, I can build out those shows, right? On the Zetta side, and as a program director, I'm just referencing that show as well with the external ID that's in there. All right? All that start to make sense? Yes, yes, yes. And then, of course, I can voice track everything here as well. No limitations there either. I can voice track as far in the future if I wanted to. So I highly encourage, these users to work smarter, not harder. Right? You're always up at the very deadline trying to get things to work. Then all of a sudden, it's chaos the day before. It always happens that way. So these A to Z weekends are coming. These theme weekends are coming. So work ahead right now, right? I know maybe Memorial Day might be a little too close for the theme weekend. That's a great idea. Kick off the summer theme weekend. I did it every single year. I had essentially every song to kick off the top of the hour was a summer theme song, right? There's Will Smith summertime songs. LMFAO, which is the one? There's Len, Steal My Sunshine. There's another one that was always in there at the top of the hour. So you can do those now, program them. July 4th weekend, do the same exact thing. If you want to go all out, have a 3-day weekend on July 4th, have your talent, have all these specialty shows, just go ahead in GSelector and schedule it. Go in Zetta and schedule those logs, right? And voice track, prep it, get it to go. Those voice tracks are still available here in your library too, just so you know. If you're worried about, Nate, you know what? I just think that if I go and schedule it a month in advance, I'm going to have to change the clock structure or something. I'm going to have to remove all my voice tracks and re-record them. Well, if you have the voice tracks here in your library, worst case scenario, just drag it over here and then put it back into your actual log structure itself. And that's my show, obviously. But yeah, in the log structure, I would drag and drop it over, or go to the shows and refix your shows as well. Thomas, how is my Polish? It is not very good, if non-existent. But thank you. I love you keep asking me. Thank you, Thomas. Can I plan, for example, Christmas shows, let's say half a year earlier? Yes. Yes, Thomas. That is the point I'm trying to convey here. And I can tell you, half of this comes from when I was a program director, knowing what I know now and seeing how different users interpret programming, but also just day-to-day workflows. There's so many things that I realized that I would have done differently when I was a PD, right? Because again, when you're a PD, you're just so immersed in today's music log or whatever it is, you don't think of the bigger picture, right? But you're absolutely correct. You can start working on your Christmas logs right now if you wanted to, and you can curate them over in GSelector, right? That's the beauty of GSelector and Zetta's active and inactive. You can have a whole bunch of stuff here. What I would do personally, Thomas, is I would have probably a separate station here for Christmas, right? So just to be very clear, Zetta is linked to a single sequencer. So GSelector station and Zetta sequencer are tied together as one. They're essentially married, right? We don't want to get in the habit of swapping out stations for sequencers just because it just leads to confusion, right? So what I would do personally in that scenario, Thomas, is I would remember we're GSelector and Zetta are an enterprise environment. So these songs are all here, right? If I go to my advanced search, hit this plus, and I'll go and say active on Christmas, right? So even though I'm operating an RCS hot AC, you can see all of my Christmas songs here. And by the way, blue circle means they're active for my station. Orange squares, they are inactive for my station. But you can see I have some categories here, some other things. So what I would do, Thomas, who's looking to build a Christmas station right now for December, is I would build out everything in that sister station using the shared music and the shared categories from my hot AC to my Christmas station. I would build everything out and work on the Christmas side. Because what that's going to do is, if you notice here, the tools and interfaces, look how I have my Christmas configured, by the way, Thomas. I don't have it tied to my Zetta. I have this as a GSelector off the air, just playing around with this entire station. I can do my music library changes. I can do my coding changes. I can do my logs if I wanted to. And then once I finish everything, right, now you're thinking, how do I get that log over from my Christmas station over to my RCS hot AC? The key thing here is, of course, we have the same exact categories and same exact elements in there, but we do either duplicate or repeat. Those have their own options. Don't forget F1 dynamic help to show you the two. And what we can do there is say, if the station is Xmas, send it to RCS hot AC on, and you guessed it, I'll just jump over here. Boom, 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 boom. I can't believe we're talking about Christmas already. This is insane. And I'll probably just pick Christmas Day right there. See that, Thomas? Does that make sense? So again, Thomas's question here was, if we're looking at holiday programming, being smart, working ahead, can we do a Christmas show a year and a half early? Absolutely. The same rules apply. I gave you some overall Christmas formats that just pertain to me and how I would do it. But going back to the clocks section, right? And going to the clocks and definition, looking at Nate's holiday show, if you give this show essentially 60 minutes, if you tell your talent and you trust your talent, make it 60 minutes. Of course, we do have pitchless stretch and squeeze in Zetta as well. So if you do have stretch and squeeze enabled, maybe you get to as close as 60 minutes without freaking out about the full 60,000. And then from there, we can call up that show. So Thomas, going back to your Christmas example, right? We can do generic Christmas. I can schedule some shows here and there. We don't even have to put them into the actual clock structure yet. We can just make the show over in Zetta if we wanted to. I don't have any Christmas songs here in my library. I don't think I do. Drop is a good example. Yeah, I think that was just a test example there that I have in my database. But I can build out those songs. Again, enterprise aspect. I can build them out here inside of Zetta. I can attach them to a show. And then from there, I can rest over in GSelector or copy my schedule from the off-air Xmas station and then copy it to another station inside my database. So, makes sense? I know there's a little bit of delay, so I'm going to give you a chance here, about a 1-minute warning before we sign off. If you have any last-minute questions, now is the time to do it. Otherwise, we're going to sign off about a minute or so. So, Thomas, hopefully that answered your question. My music scheduling philosophies are way better than my Polish, in my honest opinion. And let's be honest, they're probably better than my English, too. But still. So anyway, last call for questions. Talking about holiday programming, talking about how you can work smarter, not harder. Find ways to, get ahead on your work. And then, of course, you have your shows to curate elements from the talent perspective. The one thing I wanted to say, I'm going through my little checklist here in my brain. Also, don't forget in GSelector, if you're like me and already had some logs pre-scheduled and you wanted to go back and fix them, right? There is one unique setting here. I want to make sure you're aware of this. Preserve clock requests. This is always one of those set it and forget it settings, but if you are actively playing with something, you might not realize it turned on. So the idea of preserve clock requests is just that. If I schedule a log and then I unschedule and I check off preserve clock requests, what I'm telling GSelector is that if I unschedule Monday, 5/24 at 6 a.m., I'm telling GSelector right now, but do not unschedule or remove the clock structure, right? Maintain the clock structure. The way I describe this, if 6 a.m. is using clock A, and the first position in clock A is a power, right? And I schedule that, great. If I change my clocks, right? And if I, let's say, move from a power to, we'll just say, a new music to kick off the hour. And you shouldn't do that, but still. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to tell GSelector, okay, I'm going to unschedule, reschedule, but if I have preserve clock requests enabled, it's checked off, enabled, then I'm telling GSelector, unschedule the power position, but don't lose the power position. So if you are making changes to your clock structure and you are making those holiday clock changes and you're looking at it and you'll know off the bat it's not right, because when you go to the exact time, you'll see the schedule's different, the clocks are different. You're like, I swear, Nate, I made that change. I'm not going crazy. You're not. Check this out. Preserve clock requests. Right? And be aware, if you're one of those guys who kind of goes around and plays with some of these settings, notice, by the way, when I start unchecking and checking, this gets enabled by default because you're telling it that I'm going to do some unique unscheduled programming. So just be aware, making your clock changes and you need to go back and redo something, and again, those clocks are not being updated, the first thing you should go to is preserve clock requests. Me personally, I always keep this unchecked or disabled because the idea here is if I'm on scheduling, I want a clean schedule every single time. Right, Thomas? Thanks. Thank you too. All right. Super last call for questions. We have some really, really cool RCS lives coming up in the upcoming weeks. We're going to have some great conversations. Speaking of GSelector, we're going to have hopefully Bill Weber on talking about, why we created GSelector and some of his favorite, GSelector settings and features. Really looking forward to that down the line. Got a conversation with Martin Blazik, the Zetta product manager as well, talking about some of his unique features, including some Zetta 521.1 new enhancements. Now, I showed you the Zetta to Go voice tracking tool, which is so cool, but there's actually like 10 other really awesome features we want to show you in Zetta 521.1. Of course, if you are a beta user, you can go ahead and reach out to RCS support or myself or your sales rep, and we can go ahead and get you on the beta program. I know Henrik and other users you see here every week has already have rave reviews about it as well. So we're very, very excited and looking forward to that as well. So I'm going to sign off for now. I'll see you next Thursday and every Thursday as part of RCS Live, 11 a.m. Eastern. Don't forget, if you want to watch any of the old videos, check out our archive over at rcsworks.com/rcs-live. Be safe, be healthy, all that good stuff.